So your spouse is a devout Jehovah's Witness. You are not. Maybe you met while they were fading out of the religion, but in a moment of inspiration they got gung-ho again and started attending meetings. Or maybe they answered the door to them and a year later they're baptized and suddenly obsessed with their tablet. What just happened? You are now what's called a divided household, and when your spouse goes to meetings, they do not refer to you by name. Rather, they refer to you as their unbelieving mate or worldly. Now, this sucks for you, but today I want to talk about what happens to kids in these situations. Can you protect them? What is your relationship going to be like with your kids moving forward? Well, I have bad news, and I'm going to say this as respectfully as I can. Your kids are doomed. When your spouse first mentioned joining Jehovah's Witnesses, or maybe if you met while they were still in, you may have naively thought it would all work out. Interfaith marriages work all the time. You can teach your children both of your beliefs, and when they're old enough, they can decide for themselves what to do, right?
Oh, my sweet summer child.
To help me explain what happens to children in divided households, I'm going to be using a Jehovah's Witness video entitled, Serving Jehovah in a Divided Household is Possible. This is from a video series called Applying Bible Principles, and it would be used by Jehovah's Witnesses to encourage a child in exactly this situation.
My name is Marcus. I've got a good life and a good family. But lately, I'm really having a tough time. Mom was baptized a few years ago as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. She studies the Bible with me, and the two of us go to meetings and out in the ministry together. But I'm being pulled in other directions.
Well, it looks like Mom wasted no time getting the kid in with her too, huh? The first thing you need to understand about Jehovah's Witnesses is that it's an all or nothing kind of deal. There are no half Catholic, half JW kids in that religion. You are either one of them or you're not. The second thing you need to understand is that your spouse has been indoctrinated by terror. They believe they're going to live forever. You've probably heard this, and that sounds really nice, right? But they also believe that Armageddon must come first, and anyone who is not a Jehovah's Witness is going to die in Armageddon. That includes you, and that includes your children. And if their kids don't make it through Armageddon with them, they're looking at living forever in a beautiful paradise without their children. For this reason, as you can probably understand, they are determined to raise their children in what they view as the truth. Not only do they deem it their right to do so, but they literally think that it's a life or death matter. Any attempts you make to thwart this are going to be highly unlikely to succeed because all they're seeing is gravestones.
My dad owns his own business, and he takes care of us. He's always telling me, success is security. He seems pretty sure that sports and going to college will prepare me for the real world. He's not a witness, and I'm not always sure how he feels about my Bible study. I guess we've avoided talking about it.
The unbelieving father, who looks like he takes good care of his family and is encouraging the son to take education seriously, play sports, try and be successful in life, he is being set up as the source of conflict. So in case you missed it, sports, education, and even success are bad. Universally well known to be so. So much so that it's not even addressed in this video as a thing that needs addressing.
I don't want anything to become more important than your relationship with Jehovah.
Can I love running and Jehovah?
Do you remember what Jesus said? You cannot slave for two masters.
It is merely assumed that by the time your child watches this, they will already understand that those are bad things. So the unbelieving mate here, who's worked hard to take care of his family, and is just trying to encourage his son to do better, is being set up as persecution. This is but one of many steps taken to dehumanize and delegitimize the unbelieving spouse. They begin by refusing to call you by your name, referring to you only as the unbelieving mate or worldly. They then set out to minimize your accomplishments and what you do for your family.
My brother Todd and I used to hang out a lot, but he doesn't have much time for me anymore, especially when Amy calls. He says if I get baptized, I won't be allowed to have any fun. My cousins live 2 doors down. For years they'd come by after school. But lately, they've been into some stuff that I know is wrong. It's hard to say no. I was starting to get really confused.
Jehovah's Witnesses teach their members to cut off their family, friends, and be no part of the world, especially when they're converting into the religion. It's one of the first major steps you take is cut off everyone that you used to know before and only associate with Jehovah's Witnesses. Members often rationalize this self-induced isolation by shifting the blame. Here we see the kid doing exactly that. My brother doesn't like me anymore because I found the truth. That must be why. My friends don't want to hang out with me anymore because I won't smoke cigarettes. That's why we're not friends anymore. It's unlikely that either of these scenarios are actually the case. It's also the beginning of very black and white thinking. Most people are able to continue on having friendships with people who play video games they don't like. They can be friends with people who smoke cigarettes or have girlfriends. It's not usually a make or break kind of deal. That is not possible for Jehovah's Witnesses because they are stripped of their sense of nuance. You are either all good or all bad, and if you're all bad, then you're out.
My tough day was about to get worse. It was meeting night for Mom and I, but Dad wanted me to stay for a big party with his family. I hate feeling like I constantly disappoint him.
So, this is not just some big party. This is his father's birthday party. A witness looking at the scene isn't going to think twice, but for anyone with any sense of distance from them, this is crazy. Here's their father. He invited all of his friends over. They're setting up his birthday cake. He's just getting ready to blow out the candles. And there goes his wife and kid out the door to go to church without so much as acknowledging him. But if you're the unbelieving spouse, this is the life that you have to look forward to and you're going to have to adapt to. There will be no more birthday parties with your family, and not just for you, but for your kids as well. You won't be celebrating their birthday. Same with other holidays. You can set up the most beautiful Christmas tree that's ever existed, fill it up with presents underneath, they will ignore it. And you, even in good faith, trying to involve them in your festive spirit, will be viewed as persecution. If somehow you do manage to get them to participate, they will be racked with guilt for doing so. Do not be surprised if after a fun family night, you find yourself frozen out the next day as they contemplate all of the horrible things that they've done, and they target you as a source of wicked temptation that made them do it.
As it turned out, Jeremy was visiting for the first time since going to Bethel. Mom said that his family was just like ours, and that his decision to serve Jehovah took courage. He read a scripture from 1 Peter chapter 5. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that he may exalt you in due time. I thought about it, but I guess I didn't really understand what he was saying.
He doesn't understand what he's saying because it doesn't make any sense. At least not immediately. Let's get the context to see what they're really trying to say here. So the first epistle of Peter is a letter that he wrote to various churches in Asia Minor. As with many of these letters, Christianity was a new thing, and Christians were being brutally persecuted for pioneering this new faith. All of these scriptures are about enduring and fighting persecution. The 5th chapter begins with a plea to the elders to shepherd and watch over the flock. The cherry-picked scripture here makes more sense with the full context. It's asking the young to submit to the elders of their churches. Further, it warns that the devil prowls like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. What they're doing here is painting out the unbelieving parent out to be not just a source of persecution, but someone channeling the work of the devil himself. This is what they do: dehumanize and demonize unbelievers until even the most well-meaning act of encouragement feels like an attack. Every time they go to a kingdom hall, they are being brainwashed to believe it. This is what you're up against.
That weekend, Jeremy asked to work with me in field service. We talked more about how 1 Peter chapter 5 helped him decide what to do. His heart was divided, but he said that humbling himself meant doing God's will, and then trusting that Jehovah could make his heart catch up later. He knew Jehovah cared for him, and that there were only two choices: Jehovah's way or Satan's.
There are only two ways: Jehovah's way or Satan's. This new role model is instilling in the child black and white, us versus them thinking, which is one of the major factors in thought control used by cults. They're presenting it to him like it's a choice he's allowed to make on his own, but it's not really. Oh yeah, do whatever you like, totally your choice. You have all the freedom of choice in the world, but low-key, if you don't do what I'm suggesting you do, you're walking with Satan, and we all know what happens to people that walk with Satan, don't we? It is not freedom of choice if your options are presented with a threat. Less obvious here is the feeling of otherness that a lot of kids in these situations feel. Having someone worldly in their immediate family marks them as spiritually weak by default, especially if that person is their father, because that means the family is lacking a spiritual head. They might as well be a fatherless orphan. These kids have to work twice as hard to gain approval as everyone else. If they're not being ignored or pitied by everyone else, then they're being targeted by people like this guy here who are seeking to replace you as the parental figure. And in an organization known for its mishandling of CSA cases, you might not want one of them replacing you as your child's parent. I'm just saying. Unfortunately, these kids are very susceptible to this. They are starved for attention. As you remember from earlier in the video, they are slowly isolating themselves from their old social structures and leaning into black and white thinking. And they are very quick to lack on any kind of positive attention they receive inside the congregation because they're starved for it.
Then he read verse 9 to me. But take your stand against him, firm in the faith. And he asked me to do two things when I got home. First, he said I should pray about my situation. And second, he said that I should try and think of a Bible character who took a stand for Jehovah. Timothy took a stand and chose spiritual goals. Explaining that to his father would have taken courage. Talking to my dad would be tough. Just another time he'd be disappointed in me. But Timothy's example and Jeremy's encouragement helped me realize exactly what I had to do.
Once again, undue influence. Take a stand against him, firm in the faith. Who are they talking about in this video? The boy's father. Who is the scripture talking about that they're referring him to? Satan. Are they suddenly the same thing now?
It wasn't easy. Dad loves me, but I know he doesn't fully understand my choice. But I explained how my Bible study has already helped me. At school, I've been offered drugs, approached by girls, tempted to fight, but I've resisted it all. And that made Dad think.
This relies on one of the greatest mistruths that JWs and a lot of other Christian religions rely on. The idea that you cannot have a good life or make morally sound decisions without the Bible or an organization to guide you. There are plenty of teenagers in school who manage to beat back the swarms of thirsty girls trying to get into their pants, insert eye roll here. There are teens who don't smoke, there are teens who do well in school, teens who don't do drugs, all without the Bible telling them to do so. The proof is right here, in their own video. The worldly person is listening to his son and understands that these are all good things. He didn't need to sit through a meeting to understand that. He didn't need to read the Bible to understand that. He just knows. In addition to knowing all of these things, he's an entrepreneur. He's taking good care of his family. He's listening to his son, letting his son make his own choices. So far, it looks like the only thing that the religion is giving the mom and the son is a lot of things to do and a whole lot of no fun. No more family, no more parties, no more friends.
I know that won't be our last conversation, but it's a start. I know which way to go now. I've chosen Jehovah's way, and my heart is no longer divided. And I'm convinced Jehovah is with me.
This is what you are facing as an unbelieving parent. What can you do? So, I am not an expert, and I'm not going to give you permanent, life-altering advice. Circumstances, they vary. It's not my place. I just want to illustrate what your child may be going through when you're not around so that you understand better where they're coming from. What I will say is that your believing partner is going to be very pushy about their beliefs, especially when it comes to the kids. Remember that you have every bit the same right to your children's upbringing and well-being as they do. And everything they say about divided households is just that. Something they say. It's a construct. They are expecting your house to be divided because you're a non-believer and will just assume that it's so. You don't have to play by Watchtower's rulebook. You don't have to let your house be divided. You can make your house a happy home and, through example, disprove all of the stereotypes about what they're expecting you to be in this situation. Every time they leave for a meeting, they are being brainwashed to believe a number of things. Conventions, doubly so. Brace yourself after a convention weekend. If you are hoping to wake them up, you have to tread very carefully because anything you do can be undone in a matter of hours at the Kingdom Hall, and they will villainize you if they catch on to it. The best thing you can do, in my opinion, is break their information isolation. Get them to look outside of JW.org for answers to their questions. Remember how earlier in the video, the kid was looking up videos on JW.org to figure out what he needed to do about his dad? That they're going to do this for everything now. You need to get them away from that. Buy them books. Leave them around the house. Things that encourage critical thinking. Encourage them to ask questions. People that ask a lot of questions are not very welcome inside that religion. And do this for your spouse as well. Remember that they are under just as much undue influence as your child is. Just don't push too hard. In most cases of divided houses that I'm aware of in my experience, the kids eventually snap when they become older teenagers and rebel against it. They get tired of never being good enough despite performing as well or better than most of their peers in the congregation. They get tired of being controlled and just go as far in the opposite direction as they possibly can. Again, that's just speaking from my own experience. There's always the possibility that they will, dive into the Kool-Aid and run off to Bethel. You never know. If that pendulum swings into the rebellion side with your child, be there for them. Understand where they're coming from. Their rebellious behavior is a reaction to a lot of stress and a lot of demands being made on them from inside their religion. Let them know that you are there for them and that your love is not conditional, because that is something that the religion does not offer them. If you are a parent who has been through this situation and has any advice, please share that in the comments below. Share your experience. Every family has a different dynamic and every story is valuable. I'm Germ. I'm mentally diseased. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.